The movie begins with Creep in the car and a bell tolling. Billy, outside at the bike stand, curiously wonders where the sound is coming from. When the car's back opens, the Creep is holding many presses, which are bundled like a dozen. The Creep tells him he hasn't seen anyone so impatient, as if his life depended on getting the first copy of the presses. Then the Creep throws 12 presses to the ground, and Billy looks curiously at the presses. The visual changes to animation. The little boy and the Creep, who is in the car, appear in animation. The Creep flies from the car and disappears. The little boy becomes very excited. Billy sees the presses, tied with rope, start to loosen, and the presses titled Creepshow are revealed. From the presses, some flying things emerge. The Creep welcomed the kiddies for another edition of Creepshow and introduced the first nauseating novella, a nasty little bonecracker titled Old Chief Woodenhead. In a quiet, sleepy town, a car is parked outside a general store, and in the distance, a lone dog barks. Inside the store owner, Ray, is painting a large wooden statue known as Chief Woodenhead. With each brushstroke, Ray recalls the history of the statue, a longtime guardian of the store that had stood faithfully by his side for many years, alongside his wife, Martha. Martha steps outside, her face clouded with concern as she urges Ray to stop working at the store. She expresses her worry about the town's decline, noting that their once thriving business has nearly vanished. With no customers coming in and many people still owing them money, things are not what they used to be. They sit down together, reminiscing about how much the store has supported them over the years. They mention how it helped them send their daughters to school and even provided savings for their grandchildren. Martha tells Ray that the store is not like before. It feels like it has no future, as jobs and money have left the town. She tells him they have nothing now, not even money for their grandchildren, only good intentions. Ray responds gently, saying that inheriting good intentions is a blessing and that good intentions can build a country. He assures her that the good things they've done for others will pay off someday. Suddenly, their conversation is interrupted by the sound of an approaching vehicle. A chauffeur-driven limousine pulls up in front of the store. Out steps Benjamin Whitemoon, a man with an imposing presence, accompanied by 2 companions. Ray tells Martha to be nice to Benjamin. Martha nods and assures him that she will show him respect. Benjamin walks over to Chief Woodenhead, greeting the statue with visible reverence. He then turns to Ray, acknowledging the debts his people owe to the store. Benjamin reassures Ray that his people are not dishonest. As a temporary measure, he offers Ray a sacred object called the Alina, a symbolic pledge of their commitment to repay what they owe. Ray hesitates, fully aware of the cultural importance of the Alina. But Benjamin insists, assuring him that it will be safe in his care until the debts are settled. Before leaving, Benjamin expresses hope that the town will one day return to its former prosperity. As Benjamin walks out, he says, "Good afternoon." Martha, caught off guard, accidentally blurts out, "Goodbye." When Benjamin looks her in the eye, she quickly corrects herself, "Good afternoon." Ray and Martha both hold the Alina with care. Ray tells Benjamin he will guard it with his life. Martha adds she told Ray he shouldn't have trusted his people, but now he has proved her wrong. As Benjamin departs, Ray turns to Martha and says, "The country will come back to life one day." Then he looks up at Chief Woodenhead and says he'll finish painting it tomorrow. As night falls, Ray and Martha, holding the precious Alina, go inside the store. They get shocked by what happened to them. The thieves have entered their store. At the front of the group is Sam Whitemoon, Benjamin's reckless nephew, followed by his unruly companions Fatstuff Gribbins and Andy Kavanaugh. With a smug sense of entitlement, Sam strides through the store, helping himself to whatever catches his eye, while Fatstuff and Andy ransack the shelves, their actions a whirlwind of chaos. Ray and Martha freeze in disbelief as Sam mocks them, his arrogance palpable. Ray, disgusted by Sam's actions, reminds him of the integrity his uncle Benjamin had shown earlier. But Sam is unfazed, dismissing his uncle's values and insisting that they, the Whitemoons, are simply taking what is rightfully owed to them. When Ray accuses them of theft, Sam brushes off the accusation, claiming it's of no consequence. Fatstuff, distracted by his hunger, demands the cash from the register, and Ray, seeing no other option, reluctantly hands it over. Sam, not content with the money, turns his attention to Martha and tells her to bring her purse, ordering her to hand it over. Ray protests, but Sam quickly draws a gun, silencing him with a threatening glare. While Martha has gone inside, Sam goes to the photo machine, asking Ray whether it works or not, and he starts shooting himself with the machine, talking about how many women are waiting outside for him, being a Hollywood actor. He talks about the 9 years he spent growing his hair long and then refers to a story of a man who had hair, and when a woman made him lose his hair, he became weak. Sam tells them he will not be like that man. Martha comes with her purse, and then Sam holds her purse, reveals the things inside, and then takes the money from her purse and puts it in his pocket. Fatstuff tells Sam they have to leave as there is not enough cash here. But Sam, knowing his uncle had been here and held the Alina, which costs $10,000 worth of silver and stone in that bag, tells his team they will be leaving tonight for LA and getting to Hollywood. Ray orders Andy not to take the Alina from his hand. Ray insists on keeping it and warns Sam of its sacred significance, urging him not to take it. But Sam, enraged by the challenge to his authority, tells Ray to give them the Alina, holding the gun to Martha's stomach. While shouting, Sam accidentally shoots Martha, her body crumpling to the floor in a lifeless heap. Ray, horrified, rushes to her side. Sam tells Ray to stop there, but Ray continues to move, and then Sam also shoots him. Blood pours out from him, and then Ray falls. Fat Stuff, overwhelmed by what Sam did, stumbles backward, vomiting. Sam tells them to get a car and leave, holding the Alina. He tells them they will leave tonight at 11 for LA and that their dream of becoming Hollywood stars will come true. He tells Andy that he has to pick Sam up first and then go get Fat Stuff. Andy goes outside to the car. Sam continues to brag about them going to Hollywood, and Fat Stuff doesn't seem certain about going. Sam assures him he will take him wherever he goes. Sam mockingly fires shots at the store and Chief Woodenhead, causing a can of red paint to spill onto the floor, laughing. As they are leaving the place, with Andy driving the car, the Chief starts moving. He dips his fingers into the spilled red paint and marks his face, as if preparing for battle. At night, Fat Stuff is seated at home, watching television and indulging in a late-night meal. Suddenly, swords start flying toward his direction. It seems they come out of the art hung on the wall, piercing his body. Blood spills as he collapses, lifeless. Andy is at his house, starting to leave unnoticed while holding tape in his bag. As he starts to leave, kids are watching a movie at home. When he steps outside, he sees that his car has been crashed, and he wonders who did it. The shadow of Chief Woodenhead appears, and he kills Andy by stabbing him. Blood starts to flow. Sam is at his house, watching a movie and talking to himself. He hears a sound and gets confused. He grabs his gun to shoot, but when he turns his back, he sees the Chief. He tries to escape, but the Chief grabs his hair and cuts it off. Sam screams loudly, and his voice is heard by his uncle Benjamin, who is sleeping in his bed far from where Sam is. Benjamin wakes up when he hears the scream and goes to Ray's place. When he arrives, Chief Woodenhead is standing in his original position. Benjamin sees Sam's hair in the Chief's hand and understands what happened. He nods his head and leaves. The animation returns, showing Billy holding the book. The creep starts talking, saying that Sam Whitemoon paid quite a price. The story goes back to animation. The creep tells the kiddies this was quite a price for young Sam Whitemoon to pay. Billy is seen seated, and the bookstore man at the counter gives Billy his package and tells him to pay $9.99. He comments that it's quite expensive for a toy ordered from a comic. Billy tells the man that Creepshow is not a comic, it's a Venus flytrap bulb. The creep comes back, moves his hand, and asks the kiddies if they are still there. He says that Chief Woodenhead didn't scare them away. Then he tells them they might enjoy the next splintering tale, carved from the same wormwood. He introduces the next story, calling it a splashing little ditty about people stranded without a paddle on a sea of blood. It is titled The Raft. Laverne, Rachel, Randy, and Dickie are traveling in a car, enjoying themselves. Laverne and Dickie, who drove the car, are in the front seats, while Rachel and Randy are in the back. Rachel doesn't seem happy. They talk about reaching the raft. They are smoking, and there is a lot of chaos in the car. They finally arrive at the lake where the raft is. Dickie and Laverne take off their clothes, and the boys run toward the water. Randy also removes his clothes, but Rachel does not. The two girls talk while the boys get closer to the raft. The raft was very cold, making it difficult for them to enter. While Dickie and Laverne are joking with each other, Rachel enters the raft with her clothes still on. They all talk about how cold the raft is. Eventually, they all get into it. Randy notices something strange in the water, wormwood. It looks like a floating patch of dark liquid and makes a strange noise. He tells everyone that they should leave immediately. They have seen a place on the water that will help them to escape, moving like a floating mass, helping people stand on it. Randy and Dickie swim to it quickly and climb onto it, and help Laverne and Rachel also to climb on it. Randy and Dickie stare at the wormwood, feeling uneasy. Randy warns that it might be dangerous, but the others don't believe him. Randy says it might go after the girls, from the experience he had before. While Laverne and Dickie are kissing, Rachel reaches out to touch wormwood in the water. Suddenly, something rises from the water, grabbing Rachel and pulling her under. They were shocked. Randy tries to help Rachel, but Dickie stops him from doing so, as the wormwood is all over her body. Dickie fears it will attack Randy too. Dickie told them he had to swim away, thinking he could escape because he is fast. They have told him not to do so, and Laverne holds his hand. The wormwood suddenly grabs his leg where he stands and pulls him under. Now, only Laverne and Randy are left. Randy holds her close as they try to think of a way to escape. Laverne cries while the wormwood continues to move in the water. At night, the temperature drops. Laverne has asked Randy to hold her as it is very cold. They were in the middle of the water. They hold onto each other for warmth while keeping an eye on the wormwood in the water. In the early morning, Randy and Laverne were holding each other while sitting. Randy woke up before her, and when he saw her, she was not awake. Randy has kissed her forehead. Randy began to kiss her by moving her and her clothes. Still, she didn't speak at once, instead making some sounds. Randy stopped kissing. Suddenly Laverne starts to make a noise, and when she turns her face, Randy sees her half-face held by the wormwood, and he starts to shout and she can't help herself. Also, Randy hasn't tried it, as he fears. Laverne's body is dragged across the wooden platform with unnatural speed. She screams his name, her voice filled with sheer terror, her hands clawing at the air, searching for something to hold onto, and asks Randy to help her, but she shrieks. The monstrous, black mass in the water has her now. It wraps around her legs, pulling her down with merciless force. Her screams are choked by the rush of water, her body vanishing beneath the surface. All that remains is a swirl of bubbles and a dark stain spreading across the water. Randy is frozen, his breath coming in ragged gasps. His mind races. He is alone now. The raft is no longer a safe haven, it never was. He turns in all directions, searching for an escape, but there is none. The thing is still there, waiting, watching. He can almost feel its hunger, its pull. Without thinking, he makes a split-second decision. He leaps off the raft, throwing himself into the icy water, swimming with every ounce of strength he has left. His muscles scream in protest, but he pushes forward, his only goal being the distant shoreline. The water feels like it's thickening around him, dragging him down, slowing his movements. He can hear the sloshing sound behind him. The wormwood was following. It's getting closer. His breath is ragged, his vision blurring. His hands reach out desperately toward the shore, but when he touches solid ground, the wormwood is backward from him, and Randy has begged for his life. But the wormwood does not show mercy. In one final, agonizing moment, Randy is dragged beneath the surface. The wormwood swallows him whole and goes backward. The last sound to echo across the lake is the ripple of water closing over him. And then, silence. Near the raft, the only things left were their car and their clothes. The scene shows the writing, which the young people never notice before deciding to swim. It reads, "No swimming." The creep sound came and said to the swimmers that it was slick. The scene transitions smoothly into animation, with Billy riding his bike while reading a page from Creepshow. A group of boys starts running after him and steps onto the road, blocking his path. They throw Billy's bundle of papers from the bike onto the road. Billy becomes annoyed. Billy punches the big boy and then leaves them behind. The big boy shouts to his fellows, telling them that he will get Billy back for revenge. The creep starts speaking, saying that young Billy knows his way around town and they won't catch him in a hurry. The creep tells the kids they have time for one more creepy concoction and mentions the last morbid masterpiece, which he calls The Hitchhiker. At night, Annie and her lover lay in bed. Annie looked at her watch and was shocked to see that the time was 11:15. She then got up from the bed, started putting on her clothes, and told him that something was wrong with his alarm clock. He didn't wake up and seemed to be in a deep sleep. He asked what she was saying, and she told him it was about his alarm clock. He assured her that it must have been a power outage and told her that it always goes to 12 like this. Annie got annoyed and told him it would lead her to divorce court. She revealed that she had had an affair with her lover while her husband was out of the house, and she had to leave before her husband got back. Annie suggested that her lover get a wind-up alarm clock, and he told her he couldn't afford it. She offered to cover the cost for him. Her lover explained that the reason he didn't like those alarms was because he hated the sound, which reminded him of school bells between classes. But the electronic alarm, which he loved, sounded like early morning birdsong. Annie's lover asked her how many people she had affairs with, and she finished dressing. She told him she would be back next week if she hadn't found a good-paying job and kissed him. Her lover said goodbye, calling her love. He told her that if she planned for a divorce, he would give her a good attorney. But Annie told him she wouldn't lose him, mentioning that without him, he could never get his Mercedes. They both laughed, and she left. Annie starts driving her car and then begins talking to herself, calling herself the winner of the 100-yard dash, attempting to do the impossible, 20 miles in 7 minutes. She told herself it was impossible. Annie wished her husband would be too late. She repeated to herself that 11:30 doesn't mean 11:29 or 11:31, but it is 11:30, and she started to give up, thinking that her husband, Mr. George Lansing, would not be late. Annie tried to figure out what kind of story she should tell her husband while talking to herself, wondering whether she should say she went to a movie or out to meet Trudy and Jim. She remembered that she was with them on Saturday and decided to tell him that she went to get laid with George and that he was a wonderful guy who charged her $25. She playfully talked as though she was speaking with her husband. Annie's car accidentally crashes, and she can't control it. The man, covered in red ink that looks like blood, stands in front of her, holding a sign that says Dover. She unknowingly hits him with her car. The scene falls silent and she tries to get out of the car and looks at the man, who is covered in blood, and the sign he is holding, which is also filled with blood. She escapes from him and runs away from the man. At the scene of the accident, her husband, Mr. George, arrives, his face clouded with worry as he approaches the lifeless body in the road and sees the writing the man was holding. Then another man arrives with a truck. The man and Mr. George talk about what happened and agree it's a hit-and-run accident. The man says the car passed him a while ago, and it seemed to be driven by a black guy. Soon, more cars arrive, another couple. They have quotidian faces. Meanwhile, Mr. George calls 911 and reports the incident. Inside her car, Annie drove, seeming unsure of what she should do. She spoke to herself, wondering if she could live with what happened, mentioning that she had killed someone. She then tried to comfort herself, saying it was just an accident and that she shouldn't care about it. She started driving faster. Other cars began to pass her, and she tried to clean the blood off her car using the windshield wipers. Annie continued talking to herself, wondering if anyone had seen her. She reassured herself that the man in the truck was far from her and there was a chance that he hadn't seen her. When Annie entered the Hampton exit, the area was silent. When she looked behind her, the man she thought she had killed was near her. Panicking, she tried to start the car, but it stalled. He was now standing right outside her window. His voice was a raspy whisper as he thanked her for the ride. Before she could react, he leapt onto the roof of her car. She screamed in terror and slammed her foot on the gas. The man clung to the roof, his fingers scratching at the sunroof. The glass shattered, and his blood dripped down into her hair, warm and sticky. Annie continued driving, with the man on top of the car. She drove into a wooded area, and he fell off. When she returned to a normal area, she believed she had killed him, but she then heard a voice from the forest. Annie grabbed her gun and held it. When she turned around, she saw the man at the car door. After she shot him, he still stood, thanking her for the ride. Annie fired again and again, but the man didn't fall. He got up unnaturally slowly, his eyes fixed on her. In desperation, she ran him over, the car's tires crushing his body. But when she looked in the rearview mirror, he was still there. The man held up a blood-soaked sign with the chilling words, "You killed me." Annie drove back into the wooded area, then punched the man, dropping him to the ground. She hit him again and again with the car. Annie became exhausted and fell asleep in the car, unable to control herself. When Annie woke up, the man reappeared. Exhausted and hallucinating, Annie finally collapsed in her car, whispering to herself that it was all just a dream. Just a horrible, terrible dream. While heading home, Annie talked to herself about what had happened, questioning if it was a dream or if she had a concussion. She wondered what someone with a concussion should do. Annie drove and continued speaking to herself about the car being broken and the fact that it might cost $3,000 or $4,000 to fix. She got annoyed by what had happened. Annie told herself that at least she had a reason for being late and that she could tell her husband she had an accident, which would be a good excuse. Annie finally reached home. Her car was covered in blood, looking miserable. Her husband wasn't home. She could tell because his car wasn't in the parking spot, and she realized that for once, he was late. Annie opened her car door and said that the car had been smashed, and her brain felt bent. Accidentally, the man she thought didn't exist appeared from inside the car, grabbed her neck, and thanked her for the ride. She continued shouting. Mr. George arrived home, saw his wife's car, and called her name. He found that she was dead and saw a writing that said Dover. The creep returns and tells the kids the lesson: never pick up hitchhikers on the hood of your car. He tells the kids to stay scared, mentioning that it's time for the boogeyman to boogie. The creep also mentions that he forgot to finalize the story about young Billy and tells the kids that he thinks Billy found his way with his friend. He tells them he's going to put them in traction and tells them to get ready for some serious pain. Billy is still riding his bike, flipping through his Creepshow book, unaware of the danger behind him. The bullies who once tormented him are now chasing him, but Billy stands his ground with a confident smirk, as if he knows something they don't. Billy intentionally leads them to a place marked with private property and stops his bike. The boys are ready to fight, but then Venus flytraps come from behind them and eat all of them. Billy opens the book with a smile, showing that the Venus flytraps eat meat. The private property sign flashes one last time on the screen. The creep laughs and leaves the place, standing on the back of a car.